We've got so much ground to cover today.
We do.
We have so many miles to ride today. That one didn't work as well. Sorry. We are talking all about our trip that we just got back from.
And there goes the cat.
The cat has lost her mind. As soon as we set up this camera in this place, she went absolutely bananas. All right, so all the statistics are coming your way from the trip. I have my notebook here because I don't want to forget any of this stuff. You don't want me to forget this.
I don't want you to forget.
Days on the road. Do you know how many days on the road we actually
100.
100. Our longest road trip to date.
I know, I'm excited, and it could have gone twice as long. We were having such a blast. I wasn't sick of the van. We had made a pact at the beginning. If after 30 days we were miserable, or we weren't getting along anymore, we'd just head home, and man, I could have just kept going.
Yeah, at this point, I think we both know that when we're in the van, we can just go and go. It's great. We love it. We love that road life. So that is a nice lead-in to the next question, which is, what was your biggest surprise on our road trip?
It was that I didn't get sick of the van. Not that I thought I would. We've done longer road trips. A lot of our road trips, we stop at family and friends, and so kind of have a break from the van, but this was 3 months of just being in the van with very few times where we weren't in the van, and I loved every minute of it. It's a small van, probably less than 60 square feet.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of room, but we learned to maneuver and figure out how to get ready for bed at night and get up in the morning and who was doing what, and it just was seamless. And when you live half your life outside, or most of your life outside, and then you just do the basic necessities inside, it just is a really symbiotic relationship that we kind of formulated over the last 100 days, and I loved every minute of it.
Yeah, it's the simple life.
Yeah.
You know, it's a Ram ProMaster. It's 6 years old. It's nothing fancy.
Nope.
It is, the amenities are very basic. Yeah, who can complain about that type of life? Nice and simple. To me, the biggest surprise was the state parks that we encountered on the road.
They were great.
From the Salton Sea in California to the beach in California, Picacho Peak outside of Tucson, Arizona, Elephant Butte Lake State Park in New Mexico. All of them had rather spacious sites, nice amenities, and you could stay for up to 14 days at a time. Honestly, fantastic locations, affordable with all the amenities. And you know, state parks catch a lot of flack out there. People are like, oh, we should be spending our money on other things. I'm telling you, the state parks, if you haven't been to the state parks in your own state, go check them out, because I felt like they were competing each one to outdo each other. Really impressive places that were peaceful and fun, had great trails, showers, clean bathrooms. Really impressed with the state parks out there.
And what I really liked, they were surprisingly affordable, which is always something I'm looking for.
We spent 10 days in one spot that was only $7 a night. You can't really beat that. And then, of course, the biggest disappointments for both of us, it wasn't the places that we went to, it's the places that we didn't get to.
Right.
Number one for both of us, because we talked about this a little bit yesterday, was that we didn't get to go to Big Bend National Park in Texas.
Yeah.
We just had to turn around and get back. We had work things to get to, unfortunately. So also, Austin, Texas would have been great. It was high up on our list, and it would have coincided perfectly with the eclipse. We didn't make it to either one of those things. And then the other one for you was the city in New Mexico that we didn't get far enough north to check out.
Yeah, Santa Fe. I really want to see it. I know it's supposed to be so cute, a little bit eclectic, but we're hoping to do a Route 66 trip at some point, so we'll hit it on that trip.
Yeah, we'll get it on the next one. No harm, no foul. And Big Bend National Park's still on the list, and we got to see a ton of national parks. Among the states that we visited, 6.
Not
The mileage that we ran.
Ah.
So Julie training for her 50K, which is
Yes.
happening very soon here. And I trained along with you because I intended to run a 50K, and then we realized logistically it wasn't going to work out. But I have a 100 miler coming on in the fall, so it made sense to build up my endurance along with Julie here. So Julie beat me, I would say. She beat me handily over the 100 days that we were gone. 315.88 miles is what I ran.
Yep.
For you, you just couldn't be bothered to hit 378 miles. 377.99.
I love it.
And that means that a total for the both of us while we were gone, 693.87 miles. That comes out to an average of 3.47 miles per day per person.
That's amazing. A year ago, I could never have imagined it.
When we started out on this trip, you were kind of complaining like, oh, another 8-miler.
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
This is horrible.
And
Like, what are we doing with our lives?
And in the end, you're running 22 milers. Like, should we go out for beers now? Like, it's no big deal for you. So I know you're going to do very well in your 50K with all that training. Well, and as you know, we have the Planet Fitness Black Card. That's when we're on the road. If we don't have another place to run, or if the weather's terrible, or we just need a shower too, we go to Planet Fitness with our Black Card. It allows us to get into all of them. We went to 8 different ones.
I liked it. And the Planet Fitnesses were really nice. I think that could have been one of our most surprising things. We never knew where we were going to pick one up. We hadn't planned that ahead. And every single one looked brand new. It was so nice to have showers. It was just a really wonderful place for us to just get our running in, but also get cleaned up.
Yeah, absolutely. You can cross-train there. We jump on the bike sometimes just to get loose. So it was really, Planet Fitness helped us a ton on this trip. So we aren't connected to them in any way. We just like to give them a shout out because they made van life a lot easier for us. Speaking of places that we went that we really enjoyed, favorite campsites. And I'm going to go first here because once again, we're talking about state parks. And so I'm just going to be repeating myself a little bit here. Picacho Peak outside of Tucson, that was such a huge campsite. And trails right out the back door, tons of room. People weren't tripping over each other.
No.
The facilities were great. It was fantastic. And the other one was Cave Creek outside of Scottsdale, Arizona. That similar situation there. Huge sites, so much room, great trails. We ran and ran and ran because I got us lost, and
That's okay.
The trails were great.
We got to explore so much. I love any kind of campsite that has activities for you to do outside of just sitting, maybe drinking a whiskey, having a beer. Not that I don't enjoy that too.
Sure.
But it was so nice. Cave Creek especially was just so wonderful. I mean, I think we ran like 12 miles one day. We did 7 miles the next day. And I'm sure there's many, many more trails that we could have explored.
Yeah, maybe. I have a feeling we kind of saw
Nailed them all.
Yeah, it kind of took us on a wild goose chase one day.
And I have 2 as well. The first one I want to talk about is Joshua Tree National Park. It was so beautiful, just the national park in general, but then we stayed at Hidden
Valley.
Thank goodness you're here. Hidden Valley Campground. We really lucked out at our spot. I mean, our spot was just surrounded by bouldering. It was just really fun. Phil and I, we don't rock climb, we don't boulder, but it was fun to see all the people that were. There was endless trails. We were right in the middle of the national park. It was quiet. It was cheap. The stars were just glowing in the sky. It was just phenomenal. And then the other one I want to talk about is in New Mexico, and it is Elephant Butte Lake State Park.
You nailed that.
I know, and
It's a lot to remember.
I always forget how to, I transpose the words on that one. But the reason I love this one, the spot was enormous.
Huge.
And it was so quiet. And the scenery was so vast. And of course there's buttes, but then there's just like endless views. And then we had an 11-mile running and biking trail right outside our campsite. It was perfection.
Yeah, that running trail was amazing.
Yeah.
It made getting our training easy, and it just kind of rolling hills and beautiful out there.
Yep.
Completely exposed. If we were there right now while I'm wearing long sleeves, we would be burning up out there. And I'm sure there'd be plenty of rattlesnakes and other critters out there to avoid, but the timing when we were there was absolutely perfect. So
I didn't think about that either, that it was a little bit chillier, so all of those little creepy crawlers were sleeping for the winter.
All right, the next thing we want to talk about here is maybe the category that we've been looking forward to talking about the most.
Okay.
Certainly the category that our friend Russ D wants to hear about the most.
Food.
The best things that we ate. And I actually have to read this because we put so much here.
I love it, yes.
So let's just start it with, these were the things that I fell in love with. Shrimp tacos. First off, shrimp tacos anywhere. I love them. But the ones at Malibu Seafood on the coast were absolutely amazing. The other thing I'm in love with, queso shrimp tacos. I didn't even know that these existed. It's shrimp tacos with cheese inside and then outside. It's fried. And it's such a flavor explosion. We had them in El Paso, had them in Hatch, had them somewhere else too. All of those were absolutely amazing. And yeah, queso shrimp tacos in Malibu. everywhere we went, it seemed like somebody was doing something very cool with shrimp tacos.
So mine's a little eclectic compared to your shrimp tacos and shrimp tacos.
You are more interesting in general.
So my number one favorite thing that I ate on the road was the green chili enchiladas that we got in El Paso.
Yeah, M&J, I think?
L&J.
L&J, okay, yeah.
It was unlike any enchilada that I've ever eaten. They're known for it. When I asked what we should order, they said, this is what everyone orders here. I wish I could eat it again. It was so delicious, and if you're ever in El Paso, you should eat them.
You out-ordered me so badly
So
that day.
bad.
I was very, very envious of what you had on your plate. Now, for you, your second place was fish and chips at Malibu Seafood. So Malibu Seafood tops the list for both of us, really.
It was unbelievable. And I don't even like fish.
Yeah.
Like, I'll have a bite, but I'm not going to eat a meal of it. I went into this thinking, if I don't like it, Phil, just end up eating it. But I think I ate it 3 times in the 3 weeks that we were there. It was so good. It was perfectly crisp. The fish was so fresh and delicious. The French fries were unbelievable. It was just a really, really wonderful lunch.
And lastly, for you, and honestly for me too, because this was a special place for us because we used to live in Chicago for years and years.
Yeah.
You haven't had a decent Italian beef in how long?
Since we left.
Yeah. Chicago Italian beef is on a different level. That's the truth.
Every time we go home, I have to eat Italian beef, and it's not like I haven't tried. Every time we travel to a new state, a restaurant says, we have Chicago-style Italian beef. And I'm like, mm-hmm. And then I order it, and it is not the same. This was the closest, and I'm talking the closest that we've come to a Chicago beef, and it was in Mesa, Arizona. It was right outside of spring training for the Cubs, so maybe there was some Chicagoans there making the food, but it was pretty darn close, and I felt like I was back at home.
Yeah, that whole area was almost like a little Chicago. There was Italian beef. The pizza was very Chicago-like. The dogs were Chicago-like. There was a lot to like there. It was really like a taste of home for us when we were visiting in Mesa. An eclectic grouping of food that you enjoyed. I definitely probably should have expanded my horizons a little more, but, you know, drenching things in queso and eating tacos is what I like, so that's what I stuck with.
And you can't go wrong.
Next up is a weird category for us. Scariest moments.
Ah, yes.
Because things are going to happen on the road. That's just the way that it is. And number one for me, and I don't know if this was the scariest for you, but my blood ran cold when I heard it. We had just gone to bed at Elephant Butte Lake State Park, and we heard what we thought was a woman screaming. It was so loud, and it sounded so authentically from a horror movie or something like that.
Sheer terror.
And we jump up and we are looking out the windows. We are trying to figure out what in the world's going on. We don't see any activity whatsoever. And the whole night we were pretty nervous until in the morning we started listening to animal calls on YouTube, trying to figure out what in the world we might have heard. Pretty sure that it was a bobcat scream. And that, I was rattled. It took me a while to fall asleep that night. I'm not even sure if I did sleep.
Yeah, that scream was crazy and intense, and it really, really rattled us.
And then the next thing was there was a neighborhood that we were camped at in Las Cruces, and wasn't the best neighborhood. And we went to a drugstore there just to pick up a couple of sundry items for us. And you were being followed around at the store.
I was. It was really creepy, and I'm used to being in cities, grew up in cities, and it was just a really odd feeling. We always talk about trying to stay safe on the road. Phil and I are usually always together. I just ran in for the moment, made my way and paid and ran out and told Phil, like, lock the doors, let's get going. And it was a scary experience, and I've never, of all the years of travel that we've done, and we've been traveling for 20 years now, on and off, and I've never really felt that uncomfortable in a situation before. And so it was just scary. Obviously nothing bad happened, but as a woman, you're always out there and you always want to be kind of protective of your space. And so that was one of those moments where it had nothing to do with an activity or anything else. It was just a strange situation that, you know, we were smart and we got out of there and everything was fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's the usual thing from the road. Nature is fine. It's the human interactions that can be the scariest, and that was certainly the case there.
Yeah. And then I think the last thing that we can both agree on is right after we left, the atmospheric river. And, you know, the news had talked about it for a while. We didn't really know what we were expecting. I don't think that you and I really discussed how unsettling that was, being kind of trapped in the van at a campground, not knowing when the rain was going to stop, if there was going to be mudslides, if we picked a good location to wait it out. It was just kind of one of those wait and see and hope that everything went right instead of went wrong. And in the end, Phil picked a perfect place for us to hide out during the atmospheric river. It was a long few days, but it was something that we'll definitely remember.
Yeah, we didn't vocalize it to each other at all. We both were kind of like internally freaking out a little bit.
Just working, just pretending like it's not happening.
But we were parked in between two very large hills, kind of around the corner of one, and that was nice because the wind went right past us. It didn't really touch us. But when we saw how much the water had risen in the little, what was nothing, there was no water in it at all when we got there, and all of a sudden there was 10, 12, 15 feet of it, and we were right on the coast. So if we went north, there actually had been a landslide that had cut off that direction, and if we went south, we would have had to go through LA, which looked like it was totally flooded as well, at least in some of the places that we would have had to go to get through it. So we were kind of stuck where we were, and we put on a brave face, but that was pretty sketchy. We were never really in any danger because of where we were set up there and how well we were hidden away from the wind, but if it had gone on a little bit longer, I think that could have been a really dangerous situation. On a happier note, one thing that I'm going to spring on Julie right now, she doesn't know that this question exists, is places that you would like to spend a lot more time, that you would like to explore a lot more. For me, it seems funny to say because we did do a fair amount of exploring, but I'd like to do more. I'm going to say Goldfield, Nevada, the old town, the old mining town. Yeah. I would love to actually read the plaques on the walls, listen to the history of the place, go check out the car art a little closer, and, go back to Dinky Diner for more great breakfasts and hang out with the locals, because it really was interesting how the town seemed to have very little going on at first blush, but once you got in there, there was actually a ton happening. I'd love to check out those buildings, see what they used to be, see who used to be there, and I just love history. So Goldfield, Nevada is the one for me.
And for me, I'd probably go to most of the places again, but I really want to explore Death Valley more. It was so unexpected for me. I don't know what I was thinking that it was gonna be like, but I didn't think it would look as beautiful as it was. I knew it was gonna be desolate, but I had no idea how mountainous it was, that there's driving trails and hiking trails, and of course it's really hot. The colors on the mountains were just so gorgeous, and running on the basin was so fun, and I would do that Badwater Basin all over again. It was just an experience, and we kind of dipped our toes in it, and I want more.
Yeah, completely fair. I think if you watched that video where we visited Death Valley and Goldfield, Nevada, you probably felt our excitement in that video, because those places really are special and they deserve a lot more attention than we were able to give them. So even though they were kind of off of the Interstate 10 idea of the whole trip, they weren't that close to the highway, they were on our way home, and it worked out perfectly. It was things that we never expected to see on this trip that actually totally took us by surprise.
I have one more stat for you.
Okay.
And it might be my favorite stat.
Really?
It's 0. And do you know what it stands for?
0 is the number of times that I annoyed you over 100 days.
Sure. It is for 0 cracked windshields.
Oh, that is a big number for us.
In the, how long?
6 years.
In the 6 years that we've owned that van, I think we've replaced the windshield 6 times.
It's been an annual event, yeah.
The way that they designed it, not conducive for highway travel. We somehow made it over 5,000 miles without a cracked windshield. Not even a chip, which means on our next trip it's, a goner. But I couldn't be more pleased with that. Well,
and Julie buried the lead there a little bit because the miles driven on this trip. I actually couldn't believe it when we tallied it up. 5,716 miles. Obviously, a lot of that was side trips and taking the long way to the places that we wanted to go to, but 5,716, that's crazy.
I didn't think we'd be going that far. I knew it'd be I thought maybe 4,000 miles, something like that, but 5,700, that is an epic adventure. Yeah. Well, there you have it. That officially closes our road trip.
It's over, huh? Yeah.
We'll have to plan a new one.
We will, yeah. Big bummer, actually. It's been a great trip. It's been a great time. Thank you to everybody who joined us on the road for it. And we actually saw some of you on the road.
We did.
Most of you just sent us positive messages and told us how much you were enjoying the content. So thank you so much, because every single one of those messages means the world to us. I can't even believe it. Interstate 10 Southwest trip is over. We've been talking about this for 15 months now.
Yep.
And it's finally over. Thank you again so much for joining us on the road. I think we need an oil change.
Oh, yeah, we definitely do. And a car wash.
Yeah.